Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So this is my spoiler review of Minnal Murali. Now, if you have not seen this movie and you want to see my non-spoiler review, I also have that in the description area below. Now, before I get into this, let me talk about a few things because Minnal Murali is a big surprise hit. And so this was a movie that was planned to be released theatrically, but because of the pandemic, they decided to go ahead and release digital only. And it really was shocking how popular this movie is in such a quick amount of time. And so it was released on December 24th, and Netflix had the international distribution rights. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. And once it was released, wow, there was so much positive reaction from it, mostly out of India, but also internationally as well, due to the fact that it is through Netflix. And because of this, the producer, Sophia Paul, is saying that she's also shocked by the overwhelming positive results from this so far, and that she's thinking there's definitely going to be a sequel, maybe in 3D. And so hopefully there is going to be a sequel, because the way in which the movie ended up, it left a lot to this world that could be told. So I'm really excited to see that. And then other things that I learned about this is the most popular so far. It's Malayalam language. This is the second most expensive film out of that language. And most of the Indian films that I watch are either in Hindi, Tamil, or Telugu language. And so hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And so not many movies are in this language. And another thing that was really surprising is the fact that this movie was made for about $2.5 million. That's absolutely crazy, because whenever I did my initial review, I thought that the effects were really good. However, they're not as great as a Marvel film, and you really can't expect that because those films cost hundreds of millions of dollars. But then when I found out how much it actually cost to make this film, well, the effects, the production quality is actually incredible for the amount of money that they spent to make this. And so, yeah, very, very surprised by how well this movie turned out for that budget. And then I've watched other Indian superhero films in the past, mostly films like Krish, which stars Hrithik Roshan, and I've also watched The Flying Jat with Tiger Shroff, and other ones as well, but this one is probably the best one that I've seen so far, and I think a lot of people in India are saying the same things. And so those are just some of my additional thoughts now that I learned more about this film and the background behind it. So now let's go ahead and get into the spoiler section. And so at the beginning of the movie, during the whole carnival setting, we see this younger version of Jason, and he's watching like this play, this theater act, with this really cool looking actor that looks like a Spartan, so he's fighting these enemies or whatever's going on with the spear. And then something happens in the carnival. There is an explosion and fire. And as we found out later, this is really important because we find out that because of these events, Jason loses his memories, and he doesn't realize that that Spartan actor is actually his real father, who is also played by Tovino Thomas, who plays Jason. And then because of all these events, his dad actually saves people. He becomes a real life superhero. And then his adoptive father later on, kind of reveals to him that, he isn't his real father, and that was something that I did not expect, but it really comes full circle because at the end of the movie, when we have the final battle with Jason and Shibu, they're at a carnival. There's explosions and fires, and then Jason becomes the superhero that he's always wanted to be because of his dad. His memories coming back and everything that's going on, he becomes Minnal Murali, and I think the translation is Lightning Murali. And then, once we get into the village, this is probably one of my favorite parts of the movie in that it really focuses on the people, the community, the village. And so you actually get to know more about these people. And the fact that the movie is over 2 hours, it takes its time to develop the main characters. Now, as I stated in my initial review, I did like Shibu as the villain. He was the most developed and the most interesting. He goes through, I would say, the most interesting evolution. But I also like Jason as well because he goes through an evolution, being a child who really was naive about the world, who didn't really know what's going on, and really he was more focused about himself, like everything bad that was happening, he was blaming the world and stuff like that, basically like that woe is me type attitude. And then later on in the movie, whenever Jason is angry at Dasan for stealing the money that he was going to use to travel to the United States for his passport, he doesn't realize how selfish that is. And it isn't until his dad, his adoptive dad, kind of says, well, look at his situation. He's going through a lot, and to be more considerate about that. And over time, Jason does evolve, becomes a different person. And by the end, he becomes a superhero. And then on the Shibu side, I really appreciated his story even more with his love for Usha. And the fact that we find out later that they're all connected, like Dasan works at Jason's tailor business, but Dasan is also Usha's older brother. And at the same time, Dasan is what's in the end keeping Shibu from being with her. And so because of that, and some things that Dasan said about his mother, and why she was kind of crazy, and then after she died, he was left alone. Usha was the only person that really cared about him, and that really made him angry whenever Dasan said those things. So obviously he killed Dasan. And throughout this whole movie, I would say Shibu is definitely the more clever and smarter one, even though people see him as an outcast, as a dumb person, because he's manipulating a lot of things. So he's making it seem like Minnal Murali is causing all these problems. So that's another side of it. And then Jason has to deal with that. Like I said, he's kind of naive about what's going on, but Shibu is not. And then the revelation near the end, or the event at the end, where Shibu finally, sees that Usha and her daughter, is going to be with them. She actually did like him. She just didn't know that he had feelings for her. But then this really horrible things happens where the villagers are coming after them and they burn the house. And unfortunately, Usha and her daughter die in it, as far as I see. And then, of course, this really just changes Shibu to full-on villain, and we find out later that Shibu does have a temper, and he did some horrible things to a bull whenever he was younger. And so I really, really like that whole evolution of both characters. For serious YouTubers, check out TubeBuddy, the premier tool news at geekoutdoors.com. Get more done today by checking out the affiliate link in the description area below. And speaking of characters, let's go ahead and talk about the other people in the village, because even though they didn't get as much character development as I would like, they were still very interesting, and they added to this whole group of people. And so let's go ahead and start off with Jason's nephew. He's a really cute kid. He has glasses. He loves superheroes and comics. And so in a lot of ways, he's kind of like Jason's teacher in a lot of ways. He's telling him about comic books and stuff which Jason doesn't know about. And at the same time, he's just really adorable. He loves his uncle. He wants to support him and stuff. So that's the first character I like. And then other characters like Bruce Lee Biji. I love that name. She's a martial arts karate instructor, and she is actually a ex-girlfriend of Anish. And here's where the other connection comes in, because Anish is about to marry Binsi, who is Jason's ex-girlfriend. And so there's this really horrible fate that these two characters, Bruce Lee Biji and Jason, because of this bad thing that happened, Anish and Binsi getting together, they basically cheated on them, I guess. So now that really brings this whole relationship of Jason and Bruce Lee Biji together. Now, the thing is, we don't really get much there, but if they ever made any future movies, I could see where their whole romantic relationship could actually evolve. And maybe, she could become a comic book character or superhero of her own, because she can definitely do martial arts. And so that is the whole connection part. And there's other things as well, like Binsi's father. He's a cop, and Jason's sister is married to another cop, and the cops actually hate Jason, and they don't want him to be happy. They don't want him to fulfill his dreams of going to America and starting a different life. So I really found that interesting. So that's really cool that even though these other characters don't get a lot of development, they're all connected and they all serve the story. Now let's go ahead and talk about the superpowers because there isn't much explanation of it. There is a scene where they talk about this lightning event that happens every few hundred years or something. And it just so happens Jason and Shibu get hit by this lightning strike and they develop powers. And the thing is, at the beginning, you kind of see that Shibu has different powers. He has the psychokinetic powers where he could move things and do things with his mind, but he's also pretty powerful and fast as well. Whereas with Jason, he's mostly just fast and powerful and strong, and I didn't see that he was any stronger than Shibu because whenever they did fight, Shibu was beating him mainly because of his psychokinetic powers. But then as we see later on, Jason's powers develops further and he also has psychokinetic powers. And then at the end, he's able to defeat Shibu. And one thing that was interesting to me is whenever we have the final battle, where they're just like Dragon Ball style, just throwing stuff together with all their psychokinetic powers, beat the crap out of each other, which was really cool. I thought it was done really well. But at the same time, whenever Jason threw the spear like a Spartan through Shibu's body, I kind of think that maybe Shibu allowed Jason to kill him. He was just not happy with his life. Usha died. It really wasn't worth living. And so I think maybe Shibu could have stopped the spear with his psychokinetic power, but he allowed that to happen. That's what I think. And who knows, maybe he could come back in some form because both Jason and Shibu, they're just learning their powers, they're developing it. And as, Jason developed newer powers, they might develop even further powers like, faster healing or something. Who knows? And I would like to see Shibu come back because I think the actor did a really good job of portraying him. And once again, he was my favorite thing about it. But some of the things that I think I would like to know more that wasn't explained is their powers. I really want to know where that came from, if it's been there before, if there's other superheroes and villains, and there probably could be. And so if they expanded this universe, we might see more superheroes and villains that could have been affected by the same lightning or something similar. And also, I would like to see more of, character development for these other characters. Mainly Bruce Lee Biji. I found her very interesting. And I would like to see her and Jason's relationship develop even further. But I would also like to learn more about Shibu's relationship, his life, other people around him. There's so many other things that they can expand upon, in a future sequel. And overall, as I stated in my initial review, this was a really fun movie, but as I think about it more and, after think about everything that happens, the story itself is written so well. And I would say the direction of this movie, the director, Basil Joseph, did a great job, in putting all this together, despite everything else that was going on around them while shooting this movie. And I really did like the characters as they evolve, and I would like to see where they go with this because this was done so well. I don't know if the sequels are going to be any better because this was done, at a very high level, and we're learning brand new things. Now that we know these things, where can they take them? And so that's my overall spoiler review and thoughts on this movie. I had a lot of different thoughts, after I had watched it. And, now that I've seen this movie, I'm looking forward to other movies or maybe more movies from Basil Joseph or this different language that I haven't seen before. And so those are my thoughts, my spoiler review thoughts on this movie. If you had any additional thoughts, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And one thing I do want to leave off is that my original review got a lot of views and subscribers. This is one of my most popular videos so far. And I just want to say thank you to all the new viewers and subscribers. And so that is it for this video. If you did enjoy it and you got value out of it, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you on another video. And if you're a creative geek like me and you want to get exclusive access to more content that I don't put out here publicly on my YouTube channel, then join my Gold Content Creators Group, where you're going to get content like this and more for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators Group.